Hi, my name is Sil, or as some of you may remember me, QSV Gaming. This video came out way too late, and I'm going to finally be responding to the document that was made against me. I also want to point out that this is a copy of the original document. It has since been modified with a disclaimer at the top, as well as removal of an entire section for reasons I'll go over in this video. Just note that this document was made back in September of 2022, not to mention some of this information has been taken the wrong way, which is why I'm making this video in the first place. No more deals, no more games. It's time for you guys to learn the truth. It begins with a statement from Rise. As much as we'd like to honour him as an integral member of our community, we cannot fail to ignore his ugly mistakes. He has hurt several of his closest friends, and he has proven to us in more ways than one that he is not to be trusted. From a narcissistic personality, mistreating staff, racist slurs, extremely disturbing behaviour, and even harassing minors on the internet, this document will outline the truth. As he said at the end of this statement, which I will repeat, you, the viewers, deserve to know. The first section in the document goes over how I had an inflated ego, which caused me to go after so many things to one-up people and falsely accuse other players of cheating. This appears several times throughout the document, so this will be repeatedly come back to. It starts with Harry LTS talking about how I was one-upping him with games like Genocide Asgore, No More Deals, FNF Expurgation, Triple Jevil, and most especially, me being angry at him for Merg playing his game. This is mostly true. I was actively trying to be the best the world had ever seen. That's why I had attempted higher speeds on Asgore and NMD, finishing Expurgation shortly after he did, and beating Triple Jevil at the same time he was trying it. The only part that's false is that I got angry that he caught Merc's attention long before I ever did. It's true that I never congratulated him for getting Merc's feedback on his game. After all, I was one of them to bring it to his attention. But I wasn't the only one. He then goes on to say that he believes in me coming out as autistic. It's true, I'm on the spectrum, but that doesn't excuse anything I've done in the document. Don't jump to that conclusion, please. Looking further down the page, he goes on to say that I have returned to challenge running shortly after saying that I'm retiring. This is true, and to be blunt, it's still true. I have repeatedly said that I'd be retiring, only to return a couple of days later. This was especially during the time of URB Phase 3, Snowgrave, Distrust 2, and even recently, with Undertale True Pacifist No-Hit being my quote-unquote final challenge, whereas I have done a lot more since then. Next is a statement by Gon UT, which continues on about the ego inflation. He says, Disbelief Papyrus by Cesar Andrade is a very popular fan game. That fan game had a very difficult to no-hit, luck-based fight that QSV always wanted to do. He tried for a long time, and the best he could do was 3 hits taken, which he ended up calling optimal gameplay and said it was impossible to do for anyone, which is very common from him. This is true. I keep on saying that some things are impossible when clearly they're just RNG heavy. I'm still having this habit today of calling these kind of things impossible when they're clearly not. And as he stated later, he had absolutely zero proof that it was impossible. He just called it impossible because he couldn't do it. So some time passed and Tyvan Buskirk, a core member of the no-hit community, challenged him to a race to see who could no-hit it first. QSV wanted to humiliate him and prove that it was impossible. At the end, Ty won the race and got the no-hit, proving that it was in fact possible. QSV, however, moments after the run got uploaded, he was looking for it to be cheated. He tried to come up with excuses like splices to prove that it was cheated. He then posted a screenshot of the conversation I had between Ty at the time, asking him why the soul was moving to the right a bit before Gaster cuts in. Now, I am a very investigative person, but the only reason why I sent him this message in the first place is because I did not know that this was a thing. I did not know that the soul could move to the right in the transition. So it seemed a little bit odd to me, but I didn't pay much attention to it at the time, hence why I made this statement. Gon then posted in NHT, otherwise known as No Hit Tail, a video of him getting a 1-hit on Gaster Survival. In the following messages, I was speechless, followed by one of my most infamous lines, "Oh fucking K, dude." I said this because he was having better luck than I was. Not because he was going to be second ever, but because simply he had better luck. He even said later, he got so mad that he immediately started streaming attempts of Gas to Survival just because he didn't want me to get it before him. I personally couldn't care less, but he took it personally. The fact that he says that I didn't want him to get Gas to Survival no-hit before me is completely false. I was just shaken and jealous that somehow someone who spent less time playing the game was able to do much more significant progress than I ever could in a matter of months, despite continuously playing the game myself. I never cared about placement. I did not care about being second ever for Gas to Survival. In fact, I had spent so long trying to grind this fight out that I ended up raging on stream at one point, and it's a clip he even posted later on below a couple of screenshots. And this wasn't the first instance of raging either. Back when I was trying ULB Phase 3 by FDY and still failing to pass Gaster despite getting incredibly close to the amount of times, I felt rage build up inside of me, and this is what I had to say. Yeah, I censored it to save your ears' sanity. I had actually said the forbidden word live on stream. And even going back to the point where I said that I was having a hard time trying to no-hit it in a couple of months when these people did it in a couple of days, this is what he said. He ended up getting the run that day, but that wasn't the end. He was jealous of me and Ty for getting a run in a shorter period of time than him. It's true, I was jealous. Simply because I had put so many hours and months into playing Gas to Survival by someone else who I have only known to play it for a couple of days. It's a very, very big ratio. Then he goes on to talk about the Red Devil incident. Now, Red Devil is an amazing challenge runner, go check him out. Now, I have no excuses for what I said here. I'm just going to come out and say that I was overly jealous of people who put in so much effort in a short amount of time, whereas I put in a lot of effort in a long amount of time and somehow didn't get it. This led to false allegations against people, including Red Devil himself, as you see in the screenshots I am showing on screen. I did this with a lot of people, but after learning how the games worked, I had dropped that entirely. Later down the document, he goes on to say that I made a ULB club role for the people who achieved a no-hit on any ULB phase in No-Hit Tail, saying that I did it for an ego boost. Now, this is completely false. I didn't make ULB club to feel better about myself. I did it because there was a Flowey fan club and I wanted to do one for ULB as well. I did not create roles to gain an ego boost. We asked why he didn't make a similar club of another popular game, Shanghai-vania, and he said it's because he thought he was the only one who could do it. Only him. The reason why I said that I thought I was the only one that could do Shanghai-vania was because there was no other person trying no-hit at the time, and for a while, no one came even remotely close. I did my no-hit on the 11th of September 2021, and the second ever no-hit by Salty Lily came out on the 17th of June. And notice my wording here. I said, honestly I thought, not honestly I knew, know, or anything else. I thought I was the only one to do it, because there was a long time frame between the first and second ever. 220 days. And then he goes on to say that I think I'm a chosen one and that I'm the best player ever. I even put it in my bio. Now, this is untrue to some extent. You see here that I put Undertale's most hardcore player. I am not the best player. There is no such thing as a best player in Undertale, ever. But there is no denying that I may have overshot it when I said that I was the most hardcore player. Whereas he says below that I took months to do Shanghai-vania, whereas 3 of which have done it in less than a week. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? And then on page 24, he goes on to say that I had another alt called Toriyaki, who I used to self-praise my own achievements. We'll get back to this in a bit. But first, let's look at the cheating scandals. This story starts with one of the top Undertale players, Lexi, who has the current highest speed for no-hit Flowey. This dates back to No-Hit Neutral, and I know some of you already know about this, but I'm going to say it here again, because it has relevance to the story. Lexi says that she told me that how emotional she was, and how someone she knew died when she was trying to do No-Hit Neutral, because it was the one thing that made her happy and she was really close to doing it, and how I played off a cheated run as an accident, despite a team of experts looking into the run and pointing out the many flaws with it. And yes, it's true. I did originally fake no-hit neutral, but not the ones you see on my channel. The ones you see on my channel are completely legitimate. There was one run from December 2020 which is no longer available to the public, that was cheated at the time. And yes, she did in fact tell me that someone she knew died, as you can see in the screenshot right here. Now I'm not trying to justify my cheating, but I'm going to give you my motive to doing so. I repeatedly said to Lexi that I wanted to try neutral hit lists as well, but she wanted to be the first one to do it. So we shook hands and agreed upon it. But before then, she said that I couldn't do it because she was the only one with the capability of doing so. Sound familiar again? And I wanted to prove her wrong. In one of my best attempts, I made it to Flowey's final phase, and then because of that, I decided to meticulously craft a cheated run. If anything, I'm surprised for how long it stood undetected. The run was made in December of 2020 and was outed in February of 2021. It was brought to the attention of the speedrunning community, who did an analysis of the video and came to the conclusion that it was cheated. I of course tried to defend it, but that was ultimately me being afraid that it would be caught out. Was that the only time I ever cheated in my life? No. There were cheated runs before. I previously made a cheated no-hit Sans. I previously made a cheated no-hit Flowey. I previously cheated on Osumania just to feel better about someone. And of course, the no-hit neutral run. 4 times in 1 year. In the next section, Gon goes on to say that I cheated in Deltarune. That is mostly false. Here's what I did. Upon the discovery of the Bagel Overwarp glitch, or whatever you call it in speedrunning terms, I thought it was a great opportunity to secure myself a Chapter 2 no-hit run, which I did. As you know from my Snowgrave efforts, I was suffering big time. But with Main Row, upon learning this technique, it was a breeze. He then goes on to say what I had done. Number 3. Using a glitch to skip major parts of the game, completing most of the challenge and trivializing it. He used a major glitch called Bagel Overflow or Mansion Warp to skip a lot of the chapter. As you can expect, one of the admins and verifiers of the no-hit community, I was very angry, especially since he was also one and broke the rules. And of course, I tried to defend myself. This wasn't as badly cheated as no-hit neutral was, but it was still enough to call it a cheated run, despite it being done in one run. I even said, it's not like neutral in December where I spliced it and submitted it as real, that's a completely different matter. And it's true that I made the rules in No Hit Tail. It says that number 3, glitches are not permissible if they're used to circumvent the rules of the game, infinite invincibility, debug mode, etc. Now, I didn't consider Bagel Skip or Mansion Warp to be a circumvention of the rules of the game. So I guess this is where the run was quote unquote cheated. Of course one could argue it's not a bug, it's a feature. It's not a feature. Of course that time I was fearful because I thought he was going to tell everyone about it. But he then says in the document that he never told anybody. And so on the 8th of January 2022, after a lengthy talk with several people, I made a change to the title and that was about it. Until I came back to Snowgrave. And the rest was history. Gon was glad that he could finally reveal what would actually happen because it was so pathetic. I can agree, it was pathetic. Back then, I didn't take much time into looking into things and knowing how they worked, whereas now I do. I may have cheated by no-hit rules, but that doesn't mean the run itself was cheated. I did it because back then, I didn't want to follow through with Main Route or Snowgrave, because on my first playthrough, they were hard. Section 3 goes over the endless lies and irreparable damage to the community. This goes back to how people viewed me as a person, starting with Vet, who you may remember as a playtester for Tales of Underlegends. Vet goes on to say that he found some bugs in the final demo, and the only thing I said was A. Which is true. I did admire it. But then goes on to say that I made no effort to fix them. That's true. I wanted the game to be as, well, buggy as possible for speedrunners. I don't remember my full motive from back then, so excuse my memory for this one. And then he goes on to say that I made the mistake of inviting every other playtester to the server, whereas him and Palex were left out of it. And even going further down to say that he didn't even receive a thanks from me for being a moderator for 2 years. Now, as someone with more experience, I can see that this is something that you were supposed to do. I never heard about it from anyone else that this is what I had to do. I never knew once to thank someone for their work, as usually I was going to save it for the very end. Back then, I didn't know I had to do it periodically. There's a lot of things out there that are still new to me. This is not one of them. I have learned from this mistake, and did I learn from all the other mistakes listed in this video? Yes. Yes, I did. Then Semi writes, I originally met QSV on Game Jolt, Genocide Asgore. I tried to get in contact with him, but since I was not important enough, he basically just ignored me the entire time. Let me repeat that. I was not important enough. You can see the screenshot, and this is the only comment he ever made. Where did I ever say that he wasn't important enough? The only time I ever said anything was not important was when he asked me a question about Tales of Under Legends Chapter 5. And that was in August of 2022! I never once said that someone wasn't important enough. As for the ignorance part, that was because I had spent so much of my time making games. I regularly checked DMs, but sometimes I didn't think to respond to them. Not because they weren't important enough, as people are led to believe, but because I needed some time to think about how I was going to respond. Even though I always offered my help, he only came to vent about minor incidents. Every time I saw that something happened, I texted him in hope to get an answer and to help him out, but he always told me a random excuse and said that he would tell me later, which he, by the way, did not. Now, it's very common for me to tell people later, quote unquote, but sometimes I forget. It's very often of me to forget things, especially when I say, I'll do it later. That's very often. It still happens even today. Like the other day, I told someone that I will read what they had written. And of course I was going to take my time with it. But then time passed after reading it, and I didn't give my thoughts. It was only after I got a nagging message a couple of days later that I said, hey, sorry, I forgot. And then I took the time to read it again just to get my thoughts back in action, and then I provided my thoughts. Just saying, it's very common for me to forget things, and this will come up quite a lot. QSV never let anyone make proper spites for Angela and Gubijal, his OCs, and what struck me is more the way he treated the members. Now the first part is true. Sometimes I'm very protective of my designs, sometimes I don't want them changed. But now that I work with people on several different things, now I know that that is something I have to take into account. Sometimes I'll just provide concepts, sometimes I'll just provide my own take. Sometimes I ask other people to do the work for me because I cannot find it in myself to make something as good as this. These two characters were different because I drew them originally and I didn't want to change their designs for a game I was making because I felt as though that would lose the charm that they once had. I did eventually give in with Distrust Angela in my collection of things, which if you're curious, looks like this. Still retains her original design, but has been made in a more realistic way. I never once considered how something can change from this into this. Just saying. Anyway, next section. Amaro73. This goes on to talk about the Jared situation, which is probably one of the most infamous situations I have ever had in my entire career. This starts when I was streaming on Osumania. An 11-year-old kid joined my stream and started spamming my chat, which overflowed my text-to-speech. No matter how many times I banned them, they still showed up. Again and again and again. This got so bad that I went too far and posted this long copy pasta here. Now, I didn't write this. This was taken from Know Your Meme, the Navy SEAL copy pasta page. It is written here word for word. Eventually, I took to Twitter, which was the right thing to do, and the account was eventually removed. And Jared was never seen again. Amaro also says that I have found out that where he was based and I wouldn't say it. Now, I know the smoking gun was this. I found out where he is based. I found this on a celebrity page that was entirely dedicated to him. This had a lot of personal information about Jared. Now, to be clear, this could have just been another Jared, but I'm pretty certain that this was the same one because the faces matched up. And I know a lot of people are thinking that I went to some vigilante measure to try and dox this person. I did not. This was public information. It was right on his YouTube channel page. A baby could find it if they wanted to. It was right there. I know that this sounded very concerning to a lot of you, but trust me, I am not one of those elite hackers that can obtain information with just a click of a couple of buttons. I am not that person. I didn't want to go and visit this person. All I had planned to do with that information was just say, what do you know about so-and-so? This so-and-so would be a name that I had found on the same celebrity page. Quite possibly his parents. Even though I did the right thing in the end, that doesn't excuse what I had done. Now back to the cheating scandal with Lexi. Now this goes over some bits that we have already said in this video, but I'm going to recap just for those who have missed it or forgotten about it. Lexi goes on to say that I had cheated neutral hit lists when she was grieving, which is true. Her dog and uncle have died. I knew about the uncle, but not the dog at the time. She then says he faked a run over jealousy of how good I was at everything I did, and that he couldn't do anything better, especially in a short amount of time, but that's not the issue. He faked it to get attention, wanted to submit it to speedrun leaderboards even, and above all else, he knew I was in the lowest part of my life when I wasn't even making content, speaking, or showing up anywhere since I was mourning someone dear to me. Now there is a glaring lie in one of these. The submission to speedrun leaderboards. I never submitted any cheated runs to any leaderboards, because I knew that there would be people who would spot it straight up. And then this goes on to say that I didn't care about her feelings, that I did this just to hurt her, which is not true. I knew that she was sad, but I didn't think that this would spark this kind of reaction. Cheating is a bad thing. Don't ever do it. I never once considered just how much this had meant to her, especially since she made the wish to her dying uncle that she'd be the first person to do a no-hit neutral run, which she didn't end up doing. And then she goes on to say that I one-upped her by doing something faster, even if it was the same challenge but 0.05 times faster. And I think a conclusion that comes from this is that I cheated everything back then, which I didn't. Only certain things up to no-hit neutral, like I've said before. No-hit Flowey, no-hit Sands, and Osumania. And the challenge that was 0.05 faster was beating Undying the Undying at a faster speed. I had never rubbed it in her face, ever. That'd be a stupid thing to do. Of course I rubbed no-hit neutral back in her face even though it was cheated, but I never did it with anything else. Then she goes on to say, the times he even tried role-playing with me the moment I invited him to mine and Enox's server that I co-own, knowing that I was engaged with my boyfriend Evan, openly for everyone to know at that, he messaged me creepily with the cheesy line you've probably seen. But it wasn't just a funny gag. He genuinely asked me to roleplay knowing I was with someone, and he didn't know me in that way for me to even say yes. I'm open to how committed I am, but that doesn't stop him from acting the way he does. The line in question is this one. Hey babe, what's sucking? The only time I ever mentioned roleplaying was after she said, no thanks lol, and I said, thought so, roleplayer. And then after that she said, I mean I'm taken so I can't do those things. That was the first time I knew she was engaged. It was not my intention to be romantically attached to her, and this was something that I'll come back to later in a very serious point. I have no excuses for saying that, but one thing I do know is that, at the time, I did not know what it meant. I did not know that communicating in this way would make someone uncomfortable. It was not my intention to make someone uncomfortable this way. There's a lot of things that I don't know what they mean. I was never educated about, quote-unquote, the birds and the bees. I am in my 20s, and I have no interest in getting a girlfriend. The only time I had ever had one was when I was 14, and that was an unintentional thing. I did not want to be friends with this person, and it turns out a week down the line, she got expelled. Yes, this was in school. I was not educated about sex talk. I have no idea I'm even talking like that half the time, because I was never educated. Hence why I said this, and it was not an attempt for me to roleplay with her. The only time I've ever roleplayed was in NXT using Tupperbot. That's it. She goes on to say how Tales of Under Legends Flowey Survival was a rip-off of Flowey Reimagined. He can deny all he wants, but you can see with the proof of the fan game he made, full-on stealing my entire concept and idea for Flowey Reimagined. The game revolved around Flowey not being visible, just the TV, and you could move freely around the entire bullet board. Not only did he steal my background without asking, but he plagiarized and stole my entire game. The entire game. Long before I even finished it, and this was done behind my back, and when he finally showed it to me he acted like I would enjoy this and be excited about it, wanting me to playtest it, and me telling him what I thought. Now, the fact that I plagiarized her entire game and stole the background without asking is not true. I asked for the background, as you can see by this conversation you're seeing on screen right now. I did not steal her background without asking. I asked for it and I received it. My intention with Flowey Survival was to recreate Flowey in Tales of Under Legends. It wasn't my intention to rip off Flowey Reimagined, let alone steal the background without asking first. Of course she ended up playtesting it and she loved it. Anyway, let's continue. QSV is the literal embodiment of, quote, if you make me angry, jealous, or if you're better than me, I will stalk everything you do, steal from you, and do everything you do in spite of you to feel better about myself. Where did she get this from? I don't stalk on everything someone does. I don't steal from someone. And most importantly, I don't do everything they do in spite of feeling better about myself. I asked for permission to use her background. She even said that it even looks like all of her elements Reimagined used, but she also says it's kind of weird seeing her own mod in a way but different. To then I said, it wasn't exactly my intention to copy your reimagined mod. I didn't do it out of spite. I asked and I received. I got permission. She then goes on to say this. Not to mention the whole, let me verify that you did this stick that he does every time I speak or every time anyone else does. You know by now, pretty much every challenge in the game, even sped up, has become boringly easy now for me for the last year or more. Stuff like full hit lists only taking me 6 minutes or first try every morning when I stream, or 1.5. She then says again later on, he will not shut up about when he starts pestering you with his, I don't care if you're happy or excited to show me this, show me proof you did this or I'll say it's fake and tell everyone else it's fake. And then goes on to say that I am one to talk given I have a cheating history. Wait, dislike bombing? I never dislike bombed any of her videos. I even assured her that they had nothing to do with me. She just randomly got 4 random dislikes on her videos. Something that I had nothing to do with. If I was jealous, I wouldn't dislike bomb her. I never dislike bombed anyone in the Undertale community. Ever. I never dislike bombed anyone because I was jealous. Anyway, back to her quote saying that I don't care if you're happy or excited to show me this, show me proof you did it or I'll say it's fake and tell everyone else it's fake. Now I don't just come out of the blue and say, oh, this person's fake, every time I see that something is fake. I verify the fact for myself and tell only the person responsible about it. I don't publicize it unless it's someone major doing a major thing. It's like null and void with Zenith Martlet no hit. It has been confirmed by several people, including a top Undertale speedrunner, that the run was tasked. I didn't come to this conclusion on my own. The only time I had ever called out someone who has hardly any attention for being fake was in my 5 Undertale players who got caught cheating video, which has since been deleted. And even then, half of the facts in that video have come from other people, not from me. I didn't make those assumptions. She then continues saying that I took so much from her, everything that meant the world to her, and even took the spark that kept her excited and creative and productive. The only time I've ever done something intentionally malicious with her was with the cheated no-hit neutral run. She continues, I won't even touch on the racism and pedophilic actions you've done, it's downright awful. Not to mention how you witch-hunted and harassed an 11-year-old over him saying things in your YouTube chat of all things. The racism part. Saying the forbidden word on stream. Pedophilic? This one is a very serious allegation, and we'll come back to this later in the video. For now, let's look at Rise's story, which again repeats some of the things that we have gone over already. But again, let's go over them. He goes on to say how I've been playing Distrust 2 a lot, and how it got more frustrating the more I played it. He goes on to say that I was rude with my comments early on, followed by a screenshot of me saying, only worry about yourself. I never meant to be rude with this. I said it out of pure concern. But after looking back at the screenshot, they were concerned as well. And this has been a continuous thing that's been going on for years. He then says that I am a person who will stomp on anyone I can in order to get my goals. I didn't care about anyone aside from my ambitions, and that I never considered Rise as a friend. Now this was my first day in further education. After coming back, I did a DTLG Phase 2 no-hit stream, which of course was the point where everyone had enough and decided to make this document that I am now reviewing in this video. He then goes on to say that I copy-pasted my responses to various people on the Game Jolt when asking if I was going to come back, which I repeated twice. He then goes on to say, he says he still wants to come back even after all of this. He clearly hasn't learned a thing. There was a reason that the time between deletion of QSV Gaming and the birth of SIL Gaming was a long gap. I needed to give everyone some time and for the drama to die down before I returned. Because the reason why I'm here today, because people wanted to see me improve. And it's up to them to make that judgment because I cannot say anything here. The next section is disturbing behaviour against underage OCs and deplorable actions. Now, there's a lot of misconception that comes from this, and I'll cover that as I go through this section, because it's a very serious thing. That goes on to say that I had created an alt account called Kim05 in No Hit Tail after I left with my main account. That was the second alt I had, the other one being Toriyaki, as you already know. Now of course, because I was trying to be someone else with Kim, I actually made up a whole bunch of things, starting with storm chasing, living in New Zealand Nelson. Now of course I don't know a whole lot about Nelson because I don't live in New Zealand, so I didn't know that the weather was always cloudy. Now this next section goes over quite a number of things involving my original character, Angela. Now, all of these screenshots here, most of which you could see in the slideshow that was promoting the document, were all cropped down. You might be asking, why does it matter that these are cropped down? Well, they're to hide context. These images were taken out of context. As far as I know, nobody has access to No Hit Tail anymore, so I cannot verify that for you. The very start of the screenshots was this infamous one. This was posted in my Ask Angela channel in my old deleted server QSV's Matrix. Now, there have been plenty of times where I imagine myself as someone creepy, not out of any malicious intent. This was one of those cases. These three were not perverted. As it turns out, I was being too overly paranoid. I do not talk sexual with people because, again, I am uneducated on sexual talk. And of course, this had to be one of the bits that amplified people's claims that I was a paedophile. If you look on the document today, you can see this disclaimer written by one of the doc artists, saying that I was never a paedophile. I was overly paranoid about perverts. I am not a pervert myself. I never pretended to be one out of intentional maliciousness. And then below was 3 screenshots taken from my final statement, which is covered above. Context for the second and third screenshots. There is a side quest in his Undertale fangame, Tales of Under Legends, where Angela has lost her clothes and you have to give them back to her. The whole quest is pretty weird, and this is amplified by the fact that her character is underage. Now, this is half true and half false. Let me explain. In Tales of Under Legends, there were 4 outfits that Angela would wear. Her standard one, her nightwear, where she was trapped in the spider tower, her post-Scrobby outfit, and her Supreme outfit. And this Supreme outfit is where the side quest comes from. She ordered it a while ago, and you have to find the pieces for her. Angela was never completely naked in any of these scenarios. That wouldn't even make sense. And I'll say this once again. I was overly paranoid about perverts. I am not a pervert, nor am I a paedophile. I never groomed anyone. Angela is not a toy, and she only lost her Supreme outfit in the side quest, not her regular clothes. Continuing on Tales of Under Legends, there's the final section about stealing of sprites and assets. It goes on to say that I've stolen code from the TML engine for the attack calculation, which is true, I did steal code, and I also stole code for the vaporizer animation, simply because I tried and I failed. I don't have any excuses for any of this because there are no excuses. Stealing code is stolen code. Even if all the programmers do it from time to time, it's still stolen code. And under that same section, which for some reason counts as stolen content, I don't know where this comes from, there was an ending where Gubijal commits suicide after finding out that Angela was eaten by an enemy in the spider tower. This was a secret ending that I entirely made up from the get-go. This is not stolen content. All that remains of the document are just some personal messages from people who were writing in the document. There were more messages in here, but those have since been retracted. Now, I'll go over these points just to see how many I've done since then. Try to be more healthy, please. Work on bettering your physique and cut down on OS, because it's best you start now rather than later. Which I did. I play less OS now. Consider therapy regarding your anger. If hundreds of thousands of words can't even make a dent in your despicable attitude, then you need to get this checked out. Which I did. Now I can do self-care. Stop making excuses. You're responsible for your actions. Stop making up idiotic excuses like I forgot, it's deplorable and nasty, own up. Now this is a common thing that, honestly, I don't know if I can even excuse the fact that I keep forgetting things, but whatever. I forget less now anyway. Focus on your future. You have good potential in game development, don't do anything to mess that up too. I am actively focusing on my future, and I'm actively improving in game development, which you are actively seeing me do, so thank you. Fix your stupid mentality. The world does not revolve around you. Other people go through the same, if not worse, of what you deal with every single day. Which is true. A lot of people go through worse. There are starving and dying children in Africa, and I'm not one of them. I should be lucky to not be one of these people. No offense to Africans or poverty in general, by the way. Show empathy, for God's sake. You're literally as empathetic as a paper bag. Not everything needs to be for your gain. I am empathetic now. And finally, please, just leave us alone. We don't want you as our friend, nor as a YouTuber, nor as someone we see when we open our DMs. Just leave the internet. It's best for everyone. Don't return. You won't be welcomed. That last bit aged like milk. Post-production Sil here. As of the time of making this video, a couple of people who were involved in the production of the document had some statements to put out. Here's what they had to say. Are you still with me? Good, because I'm done. I never thought I'd have to make this video, but ultimately, times being what they were, this is ultimately what I had to come to. It took me this long to do so because I did not know how to approach it. I've never been outed before. I've never been accused of such horrendous stuff before. Do I hate all of my past actions? Yes. Have I learned from them? Yes. Would I do something like this again? No. I don't want to. Is it true that I had cheated runs for personal benefit? Yes. Mostly. Did I intend to be overly malicious with my words? No. Am I a racist? No. Am I a predator? Absolutely not. Have I changed? That's up to everyone else to think about for themselves. I'm so glad that I don't have to talk about this anymore. I know a lot of you have been concerned about me and my mental health lately after I posted several updates within a couple of days of each other, as well as the recent resurgence of something showing up in my notifications. Some of you have been asking if I'm doing okay, if I'm alright, or if I'm willing to talk to somebody when I'm feeling at my worst, which has been the case for the last month or so. Now that I've taken the time to make this video, which was long overdue, I'm fine. I felt like I had to make this video. Not out of any peer public pressure, but because I just wanted to bring all of this to a complete stop. There's nothing else to cover here. Most of the people who know about this have moved on, and I don't mean for this video to re-spark any controversy. I wanted this to show my side of the story, as some parts of the document were, in the words of the document writers, over-exaggerated and emotionally fueled. I didn't have any legal obligation to make this video, but I thought it was the right thing to do. When I see any positive mention of me, or any mentions shouting me out for things that I did, it shows that most of you still care about me and my well-being. Most of you. I never did anything intentionally creepy. There were the cheated runs before, which I did out of intentional maliciousness, but everything else was a long list of mistakes. Not everyone knows about this, and I don't mean to drive anyone away, as this is all information from the past. I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. I don't expect any forgiveness for my actions. I don't expect anyone to suddenly change their mind about me. I don't expect to still have the same number of viewers that I currently do after this video gets released. But I will say something to close this off, and this is addressed to all of my current viewers and friends. I'm sorry if you were one of the people who was affected by this. You guys are the main reason why I'm still alive. Without you, I'd probably be dead. I appreciate your support. It makes me happy knowing that you still care for me and my well-being. Thank you.